Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining our very first Smart Documents Community webinar. This webinar will be presented to you in English because of the international attendance. So before we dive into the content of this webinar, let us take a moment to introduce ourselves so you know who's talking to you. Hi, I am Christine de Schutters, and I'm Connective Product Manager for Smart Documents. Some of you might already know me from the numerous sketch documents migration projects I've performed and assisted to in the past. So now I am looking at the Smart Documents product suite from a functional angle, and I'm trying to keep an overview of its evolution from a user point of view. With me today is my much appreciated colleague, Wesley van Malkops. Good morning, Wesley.
Good morning, Christine. Good morning, everyone. I'm Wesley. I'm a product expert at Connective, which means that some of you might recognize me from doing installation and configuration projects. And I will be taking a look, or a closer look at the technical RFC that we have delivered in the past release. And I will be providing a brief sneak peek at what is coming up next.
Thank you in advance for sharing your expertise with us, Wesley. To enlist a couple of practicalities, we plan to have this session finalized before 10:30. If all goes well, you should hear us loud and clear, but we cannot hear you because all attendees are muted during the webinar. You are more than welcome to ask us questions and share your feedback with us. You can make use of the WebEx chat feature, but it's possible that we won't answer you right away because we are rather busy on our side. So your questions will be registered. We will try to answer them as soon as possible, but you can also email us all your questions using the service@connective.eu mail address or our personal addresses. Early next week, we will send you the slides that we are using today and a link to the recording that we are also making. So don't worry if you feel like you've missed something or if you want to check a recap, we will provide you all the documentation. Then let's take a closer look at the agenda for this session. First of all, I will give you a brief look into the what and why concerning this Smart Documents Community webinar. Then I'll pass the mic to Wesley, who will share his expertise with an RFC deep dive into version 6.2 of Smart Documents, and also a brief demo of our feature in the Spotlight, which is the responsive email editor. Wesley will also give you a roadmap sneak peek, so you know what to look forward to in the coming months. And finally, we will also provide you with a recap of where to find all relevant documentation to keep yourself informed and how you can reach us. Okay, so once again, welcome to the Smart Documents community. Since this is the first time we are addressing you like this, we feel like we owe you an explanation so that you start feeling part of the community too. First of all, your user experience is our drive. So yes, the changes and novelty that we release are both inspired by you and designed for you. Our roadmap is based on change requests coming from both internal and external experts and users. So yeah, we think it's very important to share this all with you, all of our users. We're also all very different users, different types of users, with different backgrounds and needs. So the Smart Document Suite, in our opinion, unites both functional and technical users. We hope to address all of you during this webinar and in all of our communication. We fully plan to start a tradition with this webinar. So this is the first one in a line of many more to come, we hope. Above all, we want to keep you informed on what we are working on. So it's a complement also to the release communication mailing we have also sent you. Please don't hesitate to give us your feedback on this format and this way of working. And last but not least, we are also doing this because we are very proud of our versatile product, and we want to take the time to put it in the spotlight for you. I also want to share some numbers with you to make it more tangible what we've achieved exactly as a Smart Documents community during the past year. Currently, our community counts more than 200 users, all kinds of users that are. During the past year, these users on our hosted environments have generated a whopping 5.1 million documents and more than 2 million emails also, so big numbers. And during that same year, we have successfully performed 57 change requests in the versions we have released. Also, a number of RFCs in this release, so the 6.2 release. 3 of these game-changing RFCs will be presented to you by Wesley. Wesley, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Christine. As Christine mentioned, we are trying to address both some technical and functional users. So if something is a bit too technical or a bit too functional, don't worry. I'll try to keep it short and simple. The first one we want to take a look at is Proxy Support. It's been a much requested feature which will help the ease of configuration, specifically from a security point of view. Nowadays, with a lot of network security, you require a specific configuration of the proxy so that you're able to access it from anywhere. And this will put that into the tool, into the sketch tool itself, rather than having to be managed in the background on the server. That should also help with compliance to security regulations at our clients, who of course are all very unique in that regard. This will be available in Sketch, so you can look forward to configuring this there. If you have any questions, again, don't hesitate to contact us or to refer to the documentation. Moving straight on, we have our REST worker. So as a more technically inclined might know, in the background, we have a few toolkits which can really complete or manage a full flow of how we handle our documents. And we've added a component to this which is able to make technical REST API calls. This means that we are able to trigger a piece of software code on another system via this API call, which is a standardized way of communicating between technical systems. This will allow us to offer additional ways to handle the documents that have been generated. And that should allow for a lot of flexibility in the configuration on how we want to or how we can manage your documents. Of course, it's a bit abstract to just say it like this, so I've also provided some example use cases, 2 of which we are actively using on our hosted platform as well. One is the callback functionality, which we will be introducing as of this release, which will basically provide a notification to the backend system when a document has fully finished generating. And the other is an integration with the signatures, where after we have generated the document, we will do the API call straight away to that e-signatures application so that we can remove a few steps and that our products are easier to use in combination with each other. So if you have your own use cases or your own web services you want to address via this REST worker, that is certainly an option, and we are more than happy to help set that up, of course. Next up, as Christine mentioned, the one that is in the spotlight, the responsive email editor. It's a big one, and it's something that we really wanted to put quite a lot of focus on, both in this release as well as in the upcoming releases. So we've prepared a small demo, a small movie to really highlight the capabilities of what this tool can do. So one moment, and you will be seeing our demo live in action. Why do we want to highlight these features so much? Of course, because a responsive email is an email that will adapt depending on the medium in which you are presenting your content. Whether you open this on a laptop or on a smartphone, the screen size is obviously different. The medium and the way in which users interact with the content is different. So responsive email really allows us to pick in on that. How do we make that though? In this demo, we're going to finish a prepared template, just putting the final touches on it, doing a bit of the layouting. And we'll do that by starting with completing the header fragments. We'll need to, of course, edit the fragments for further editing, which you can see here that we are performing in Sketch the good old way, as you are well accustomed to, I expect, for doing as well with documents, for example. What we want to do first is adding a column and resizing it to the desired format. Depending on the content, of course, you might want a bigger or a smaller column, and this is all very easily manageable. Next up, we'll be adding some background, some color to the background to make it a bit more catchy, to really give it our own branded style and feel. To choose a color, you can always make use of the color picker, but we also offer support for RGB codes as well as hexadecimal codes. I have a small preview of the color which you will be selecting and which will be implemented onto the background. This we can do for all of our columns, and all of them can be different independently if you want, or we can of course give it a uniform feel. Next up, we'll want to add a logo inside of the email editor. Well, when you are inserting an image, it is possible to give an image description and adapt the dimensions if necessary. Otherwise, we are simply making use of what was already provided by the source file. It is also possible, by the way, to resize an image making use of the anchor points, but that will be shortly shown here. So as mentioned, we're editing the description and modifying the dimensions just so you can see it. And here we have the preview of our anchor. So it's a really flexible way of working, but again, RFCs come from inside and outside. So if you have any recommendations on how to improve it, always welcome. Next up, we want to highlight the column corners. So for our columns, we can specify a certain rounding over columns, or our borders rather, which can really give it a more fun and flexible look and feel, a more modern look and feel. For our columns, we can configure these independently of each other, and we can do that for all of the different columns or borders that we have in our column. Of course, when we're making changes, we know the good old practice of checking in all of our changes so that it's available completely to everyone making use of the model store. However, we'll also have to update the fragment to really pick up the latest changes and to make sure that it is alive there. We can do this by either updating a specific fragment, making use of the button update this fragment, but you could also opt for update all fragments if you have done multiple changes in one go. These will be shown in the editor, so as you can see. Next up, we'll be wanting to make sure that we have a personal solution. For that, we want to, of course, continue to make use of our variables as you've already become accustomed to in our documents. This will also be possible in our emails. We've prepared a decision table and we've added it to our model, as you could see earlier. So now we're hooking it up to the fragment, to the model, so that we are able to further customize our content to our users. We will be inserting the gender variable, and to do that, you can just click on the toolbar to pick your variable, and with the filter search, you can really search for a specific one. Repeating the previous steps will also offer us the option to add other variables, and we can also perform some conditional logic on this. For example, for our given names, we want to only display this if there is a value provided in the source XML. So we'll be applying a small XLT function to that, checking if the length is different from 0, greater than 0, so that we know for sure that we have content that we can display in the model. So finally, we will also insert the last name variable, and then we'll apply some formatting to that as well. You can do it on the one hand inside the model itself, but we also provide some formatting on the source input as well. For example, lowercase, uppercase, sentence case, etc., etc. It's a bit minimal, but it should help really give it that personal look and feel. The next feature that we want to show you is the variable link button. So the variable link button gives us the possibility to insert a button with some text as well as a variable for the URL. That variable with the URL provides us with the desired link. And after entering the text, we can also make our button as fancy as we might want by using the by now familiar color picker, as well as specifying corner rounding as well if we would like that. So now we're searching for the variable which will contain our URL, and this will allow us to really customize the URLs that are being sent to our end user, depending on either the content or the context of your email, or even a personal link for that recipient himself or herself. Similar to how we insert a button, we can also just straight up insert a link, of course. This follows pretty much the same steps, but with a bit less layouting options because, of course, we don't have a button. If we want to insert a fragment, that's certainly also possible within our email editor. Do note that when we insert a fragment, it will always contain at least one new row. So by clicking the button, we can go pick our fragments from our Sketch Navigator. And we have the option to make it conditional if we want, so that's also still an option. But after inserting, it will be shown in the content editor. Moving on finishing our template, we will be adding an additional new row that we want to further fill in, which can be done in the design editor, simply as you can see. We will be adding a hyperlink, this time not a variable link, just a static one, because that suits the context of this URL better. We are able to, of course, align our text, and then by clicking the insert/edit link, we're able to fill in the URL as well as provide text that will be shown to the user to click on, which will take him to the desired page. You can specify a title attribute, which is for the more technical savvy, as well as a target, which will specify how the link will open, whether it's in the same window or in a separate new created one. So that's it for the links, but of course HTML wouldn't be HTML without the source code. We do offer you the option to really deep dive into the HTML codes and modify it yourself, but we do want to caution you that when doing this, Sketch has of course already generated quite a few of the HTML contents or elements. If we were to break this HTML, of course, that would have a direct impact either on the HTML structure or the responsiveness. So we do want to caution when modifying this HTML content. And please note that it will also, of course, be a bit more difficult to provide additional help or support on this when you are deviating from the generated code. However, it's certainly possible, as we've just shown. So let's take a look at our final model, see what it looks like in when we load it up with some data. And we can see that our variables are filled, but not only that, we can also verify if our links are working straight away from the editor. And this is all looking very nice, very good. We have our personal template, and soon you will be able to as well, of course. So look forward to that. A quick demo of our email editor. The movie, of course, will also be available for you to take a look at again. Look forward to that. But as mentioned before, if you have any questions, the Connective team will be there to help you, of course. Those were a big three for the past release, so for version 6.2, which we're rolling out as we speak. For our hosted users, a quick reminder that as of the 2nd of May, it will be fully available on the production servers. However, for on-premise clients, of course, you should have the files already, so you can plan that whenever you want. Taking a look at the upcoming version 6.3, we expect this to release in the third quarter of 2019. We are putting a bit more focus on our email editor, filling it up with some additional features and functionalities that we feel are quite crucial to a smooth and easy use of the responsive email editor, and which will hopefully allow you to make some really dynamic content. Next up is version 7, and that's a big one, as the first number indicates. There we are really taking a look at the stability and the quality of our code. Software is changing all of the time, and so we have to change along. So we'll be upgrading our API and the way we handle it. We will be upgrading our Java in the background so that we have the latest security and performance features of Java itself along with us, together with LibreOffice, which is still our renderer or editor in the background for our documents. We'll further work on what the REST worker is capable of so that we are able to really manage multiple documents and multiple responses within that REST worker. And we are taking a better look at how we manage our logging, so that will also be more easily manageable both by us and by our on-premise clients. If we then take our telescope and look really far into the future, we're talking 2020, we do understand the need to really work on that responsive email. So we are further making modification and improvements on that, as well as taking a closer look at Sketch and improving the way the house style usability is being handled, as well as supplying some more logical variables and conditions to be able to be used in Sketch. So take or do mark that in your calendars, that is coming up. Those were the IRCs, so back over to you, Christine.
Thank you very much, Wesley. So as said in the beginning of this webinar, if you want a sum up of the presented RFCs, or if you want to dive even deeper into the world of smart documents, all of our user documentation and the release notes are to be found in our online documentation hub via documentation.connective.eu. And very recently, this documentation also became available in both French and Dutch. So don't hesitate to browse our extensive documentation library. And please, if you feel like something is missing, let us know so we can keep outsmarting our smart document solution. So we have reached the end of this webinar. Thank you very much for your attention. And as it says on this slide, let's stay connected indeed. We would love to hear your feedback in regards to this webinar, also in regards to the content and the technical topics we have discussed. So please send everything over to us if you have any questions. You can use both our personal Connective addresses and the service@connective.eu mail address. We promise to answer your questions as soon as possible. So thanks again, talk to you soon, and remember, smart people use smart documents. Bye.